Howdy again, it's tubalcain, and this is Machine Shop Tips number 316 entitled Using the Number 3 Clipper Belt Lacer. Now in the previous video, number 315, I talked about the lacing and the splicing supplies and clips and belts and all of that, so go back and watch that if you haven't already seen that. But this is the number 3 bench-mounted clipper belt lacer. And it'll go up to a 6-inch wide belt. And this came to me from my buddy Michael up in Batavia, and if you recall, he is the man, along with his father, that I purchased that South Bend lathe that followed me home. So you can watch that video if you're so inclined. So, and thank you, Michael. This was a gift from him and his father. So let's see how that works. But now in previous videos I have used other belt lacers, and namely this one. This is also a clipper, but there are many other brands of this, and it serves the same purpose as this, except that this one needs to be used in conjunction with the bench vise. This one is freestanding. So let's see how it works. This number 3 I showed to you in the McMaster car catalog was about $50 back in 1958. That's the equivalent of about $400 or $500 now. And this is, again, freestanding. It could be taken out into the field around the threshing machine and used, or in your shop or wherever. And it simply works by mounting the belt lacing right in here in these little spaced grooves. And then we'll slide the keeper rod in there that will hold the lacing in there. Then the belt itself, and this is a 4-inch wide belt. It'll take, again, up to, what did I say, 6-inch. I would center that in the clips, and these prongs or points here will help hold it in position to keep it from moving around. And then we're ready to use this, and it is a press. But if you look on around the back side, it's a little more complicated than that. Let me put something under there. That we have a ratcheting mechanism back here. You can see why this is kind of an expensive unit. And as this will accommodate belts of different thicknesses, and to get the mechanical advantage that we want, we press. Notice that the movement here is rather minor compared to the amount of movement of the handles. So we press it down a little bit, and then we ratchet it forward. Do it again, ratchet it forward, until we are fully compressing the clips into the belt, which would be in a position something like that. This lacer could be 50 to 75 years old, so it's had some wear on it. But notice that this is a beautiful rosewood handle, but this handle was long gone, and somebody just put an old file handle on there, but it's still perfectly functional. Now I've noticed from pictures that some of these units have a spring here. Now I do not know if the spring is missing or if this is built without it. Looking in the catalog, there was no spring on it, but a similar one had a spring here to bring the handles back together so that they would pop back up like that. So you tell me. The first thing you need to do is to cut your belt to length and prepare the end, and it needs to be perfectly square. So if you're cutting it by hand with a knife or something like that, use a square, lay it out accurately. And when I had access to the Pexto squaring shear at school, I used to shear these off so they were perfectly square. But in this case, here in my home shop, and this is canvas with rubber, I laid out a line. I sawed it on the wood cutting bandsaw, and it did smell like rubber. Then I took it to, and that's semi-accurate. Then I took it over to the belt sander, and using the miter gauge, I squared it up perfectly. So you want the ends to be square so that when you lace it, they're not crooked like that, because that's going to cause the belt to ride off of the pulley. So they need to be perfectly square so they're aligned. And I've already prepared this end, and this is one that I did as a sample. Also remember that you need to space your hooks on there such that they don't run off the end, and this is getting pretty close to the end, as you can see, and sometimes those will tear off and be a hazard. And the other thing is that when you make the second piece, the hooks have to be aligned such that when you join them, one isn't off to the side. You want them to line up this way so that the top edge here is perfectly straight, not like that. So it takes a little planning ahead for that. Next, you need to determine what size belt hooks you're going to use, and this belt is only about 3/16 thick, and it actually would call for about a number 3 hook. And as I told you in the last video, I have almost no number 3 hooks. I'm just out of them. There's perhaps enough to do one end or one belt, but I want to save those for other purposes rather than a demonstration. So I'm going to use the number 4, of which I have quite an abundant supply. And in the sample that I did, it seems to be just fine, but you can see the back side of the hooks sticking out in some places. Where did I see that? Right here. And they got clinched over, so I think it's quite satisfactory. And those can be straightened out if necessary. They're a little bit out of alignment because this was an old piece of lacing where some of these were crooked and damaged and been banged around. Then the next thing you need to do is to cut this to length according to the width of the belt. And I'm just going to lay it alongside and cut through the paper with a standard scissors. Now you do not want to take the paper off yet, and you'll see why. Now the hooks are ready to be mounted into the grooves, and again, center it. Sometimes they'll go right in. I'll put the number 4 like this. Other times you have to fiddle around to get them in there. And on this one, the old rod, or whatever you want to call this, was pretty well bent up, so I made a new one, and I had to use a coat hanger. It's just a little under 1/8 inch. It was rather hard to find something that would fit, and a welding rod wouldn't work because it wouldn't quite go in. Now as I slide that in, that rod is just going right down the center here and acting as a keeper, so the hooks cannot come out. And then I take a knife or whatever and pull the paper out of there. That paper is pretty well deteriorated, but you need to get all of that out of there first. And don't cut yourself on the hooks, they are quite sharp. Wow, rather impressive. Reminds me of the movie Jaws. So now that the clips are in place, I'll take the belt, and it's extremely important that the belt be pushed up tight so that assures it of being square. Then I'm going to bring the belt down onto these prongs. Let me take that out again. Right here. Tap it a little bit with a hammer, and I'm going to put some clamps on there to hold it, to keep it from getting pushed out or wiggled from one side to the other. Boy, they've got that clipper trademark all over the place, don't they? And that's what it looks like. It's mounted and ready to go. I'm not sure if the clamps are necessary, but again, I tapped this down just a little bit and made sure that the belt is square. I know I'm repeating myself. And now, remember the ratchet on the back side. I got to make sure that that is engaged, so I'll bring that up. Can you hear it click? And now I'm ready. And then I'm doing this slowly. See, I got a full swing and a lot of mechanical advantage. I can visualize the old thresherman doing this out on the ground in a wheat field with 110-degree sun out in Kansas. And keep doing that until it won't ratchet anymore. This is really a rather ingenious mechanism, is it not? And that's as far as it's going to go. So let me release that, open it up all the way. And it's ready to take out. Looking good. Looking good. Now possibly I should have split the difference here between this and this, but I don't like getting too close to the edge. The top piece here is the one that I just did, and the bottom one here is the shorter one that I did as a sample the other day. And then put your pin in there, whether it be the rawhide, cat gut, or the metal. Bring it flush with one side, and then it's ready to cut off on the other side with your diagonal. And then notice here that I've got pretty good alignment here on the sides. And that belt is ready to put into service. Again, we got one hook there that's just a little bit close to the edge. And if this was the safety type, that would never come off. But in the case of this, it might. But this is, again, the safety kind where they're all connected. This is very rusty, so that that one could not get hooked. There have been cases of people getting their clothes ripped off, or even a finger ripped off if one of these is sticking out too far. So stay away from these belts, because some of them are moving at a pretty good clip. No pun intended. I hope you like this two-part series on the joining of flat belts, drive belts. Be sure and watch my other videos, and whether you are repairing a belt or replacing a belt or just watching this for the sheer entertainment value, I hope you enjoyed the video. And this is tubalcain saying so long for now, and I'll see you in my next video.